Okay guys, this is the lower bodies of this next gown we are going to be making. And the truth, this skirt pattern, I've already drafted it for the first series of the gown we made. Since it's for the same person and same measurement, so I decided to use the same skirt pattern. I'm going to be leaving the link in the description box below so you can check it out how I drafted the skirt pattern. Okay, so we are going to check it. I'm going to leave the link. I will specify link to the skirt drafting. I'll specify it in the description box. I'll leave link to the bustier drafting. I'll leave link to the sleeve drafting. Yes, all of these patterns have already been drafted. I'm just transferring all of them to fabric. We're starting this class from transferring patterns to fabric. You are going to go to the description box below and you'll check out the links to the drafting of all of these patterns. I have to make this clear so that you will not ask me in the comment section, how did you draft it, how did you cut your pattern. The cutting of this pattern, I've already done it in another class, so the link to it is also on this YouTube channel, so the link to it will be in the description box. Okay guys, also just like the other classes, you see that I added extra length to this. So this is for that, so that it will get to the floor. Even when you are wearing like a 3-inch heel, the gown will be very long. Okay, and then it is going to be this main fabric is going to be 1 inch longer than the lining piece, because it's going to be a full coverage lining. So this fabric is going to be 1 inch longer than the lining piece, so that we can use it to sew the edges, and there will be no need for hemming of the edges of this particular gown. Okay, so that's basically it. And this is the sleeve pattern we are going to be working with. This is the back side, this is the front side as indicated, and also I'm going to be leaving the link to it in the description box as well. Okay, this is the full sleeve we're going to be working with, but I am going to be making alterations because the style we are sewing is not a full sleeve. It's going to stop at the biceps, so we're making alterations. We're going to just use it from here to the biceps. Okay, and here is the pattern pieces for the upper bodies. As you can see, I have also transferred them to fabric, and like I mentioned, I will still add a link to drafting this bustier in the description box below, so you can also check it out. All right, so there's no need repeating the same pattern when we have already done it before. And this is the yoke. This is the part we're going to be using for the lace part of the dress. Okay, but this particular design has a different alteration to it, so we're going to see it as we go ahead. Now for the back yoke, I'm not going to be using this shape that has a V effect at the back. I am going to be using this back yoke as my pattern to trace out the main yoke. Okay, but I am going to cover up that V shape. It is going to be a complete pattern with the zip allowance added to it. Okay, I'm going to show us that when I cut it out. Okay, so this one is not going to have the V shape. Now let's cut out the sleeve. So for this sleeve, I am going to be using this pattern we've already drafted, and the link will also be in the description box. Okay, to avoid repetition. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out this pattern, and I've added my 1.5 inch sewing allowance, which is the same sewing allowance I added on the upper bodies and on the lower bodies. Okay, let's cut out this pattern, and then I'm going to open it up. I'm going to cut it out, open it up, and trace out the difference between the front piece and the back piece. Okay, so I cut out the pattern, and then I'm going to be opening it up, because when we were drafting the pattern, we differentiated the front and the back pattern by because the front pattern is a bit slopier than the back pattern. So I'm going to be tracing out that excess that differentiates the back from the back pattern. Here is our sleeve pattern. Okay, so now I am going to go ahead and iron stay on the main fabric of the upper bodies. Okay, and also cut out the breast pad we are going to be using for the bustier area. I'm going to show us how we cut out this breast pad. So to transfer our pattern to fabric, let me show us how we're going to be cutting out our breast pad. This is the breast pad we are going to be using. This side of it has glue. That's the part you iron directly to the fabric. The other side does not have glue. So when you are cutting it, you have to be careful to indicate that part. Okay. Alright, so for this side, this is our underbust, and then we have our bust area. This is our bust point. Okay, so this from the top of the for this center front, from the top of the pattern to all the way to the underbust. We are going to be using all of that when we are cutting out our breast pad. And then for this other side, we'll mark all the way to our underbust as well. And then for the side, you come in by 1.5 inch from the pattern. You mark your 1.5 inch, and then at this point you can use your ruler to curve in the 1.5 inch all the way to the underbust. So just curve it, make it, the line shouldn't be pointy, but curve it in using your curved ruler, and here we have it. So by the time you join it from this top like this all the way to the underbust, you have a very nice pattern for your breast pad or your wadding, whatever you call it. Okay, so let me show us how you can also transfer this cutting to your breast pad, especially if you don't want to cut out the markings you've made in case you need the pattern for something else. Okay, so just fold your pattern in half, because you're going to be cutting it in half, because each part has to be cut into two. For the side, we are cutting 2 of it. So see, I'm going to be using my marker to trace out the markings on top of the breast pad. So just follow the markings on the paper, and I'm indicating where the bust point is. That's important, so that you know how to merge it or match it when you're sewing. And then for the side, just follow the line side by side, little by little, and trace it out. And this is in the case where you're not cutting out this pattern. If you're cutting out this pattern, if you are done using it to cut the main fabric, just trace out the pattern and use it for your. And this is so I have to indicate the down part and the top of and the bust part. So you can just go ahead and cut out that. And then for the center front, that is going to be cut on fold as well, unlike that of the side front. The center front has to be closed, so we're just going to fold in from the underbust down, fold it in, and then just trace it out with your tracing wheel or your marker, and then cut out your pattern. That's basically how you cut out your pattern on this. Okay, so let's go ahead and transfer to fabric. Okay, so here are the patterns that I have ironed the stay on them, and I've also ironed the breast pad on it as well, as you can see. And so I ironed it also on the side patterns as well. Okay, so and I also tried to iron stay on the leftover stay on the back pieces. Okay, here is the most important part, the yoke. So like I mentioned, I had to cover up the V shape on the yoke. I had to cover it up and add 1 inch sewing allowance for the zip, because this is the back piece of the yoke, obviously. And then added 1/2 inch on the top for shoulder joining, and then 1/4 inch on the neckline that we're going to use to add the mini bishop collar that we're going to be adding to this Ankara piece. Okay, and also I added small joining allowance for the sides to join the sleeve, and a little bit to join the yoke to the lower bodies, the upper bodies. So I'm going to go ahead and start joining the pieces together. Okay, I'm going to sew the bustier area together with 1/2 inch, which is the allowance I added, and then I'm going to try and complete the front upper bodies before we add the front yoke to it. Okay, I'm going to show us how we drape the yoke on it when it is completed, when the front pattern is completed. I'm going to show us that. Okay, and then like I mentioned, all the classes have different things you are learning. Even though they are all Ankara gowns, you're learning something different from all of them. So do well to check out our previous classes as well to learn what we also taught in those classes. All right. Okay, so the front pattern, as you can see, this is the front lower bodies. I added 1 inch when I was cutting it. Like I added extra 1 inch because I am using an already drafted pattern. I am going to be altering the pattern now to suit the style we are trying to create. Okay, so this 1 inch I added here, I am going to be moving it to the side, because this dress is going to be having a side slit on the left side of the dress. Okay, so I am going to now start altering. That is why we added to alter it. 1 inch. This 1 inch here is going to be moving automatically to this place on the as pattern. The fall back. That's and this is 6.5. When I cut it open, I am going to be using 1 inch to sew it on the side there. So that 1 inch will be the 1 inch we added. This is just added when we're cutting it. Okay, and so I am going to be transferring this that 1 inch to the side to give us the side slit. In other words, the opening at the back, on the back seam, we're going to sew it completely. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out the 6.5 inches from the top to the bottom of the pattern, and I'm going to rule a straight line to connect it. So after marking out the 6.5 inches, I realized that the 6.5 inches I added is way too close to the side sewing allowance. So I decided to come up a little bit more and mark another 1.5 inches. So I'm going to mark another 1.5 inches towards the middle side, and I'll mark it from the down part all the way to the top of the lower body skirt pattern. Okay, so at this point, I think yes, this 1.5 inches I'm marking is a good idea. This is the one I'm going to work with. So now I'm going to open up my pattern and open the fabric, and then place the pattern paper on the fabric and use it to now cut out the both the pattern and the Ankara piece together to give us the design that we want. So note that I'm cutting this thing, I'm cutting it on the right side of the fabric because I want to be cutting the left part of the fabric. Okay, so I'm cutting exactly on the right side, and I'm going to be cutting the pattern paper and the Ankara piece together. Okay, so now that we've cut it out, I'm taking out the pins, and so this is our pattern. I'm going to be joining it there. That's exactly where the slit will be, which means there will be no slit at the back of this. So we're going to be sewing it exactly here with that 1 inch that we've added, and I'm going to be cutting this exact piece for the lining piece because we're going to be using the lining to conceal it. Okay, so let's go straight into joining our pieces together.